So I'm really excited to be here with everyone today. This is just a quick, fun back to school webinar. It's not going to go too in depth into anything. We just, I'm just muting everyone. It's more of like talking about your first day of class, what it looks like to add students, what it looks like to assign courses now that we've sort of added that. And our site looks a little bit different than it did last year, last start of the school year. So we also wanted to give everyone a chance to come in and connect and see the new site, see what's changed, walk you through the new courses, and give you all a chance to ask any questions. So I think that the webinar portion where I'm going over new features and new courses is probably going to take about 20 minutes, and then we'll leave 10 minutes for questions at the end. My teammate Allie is here as well. She's going to be in the chat with all of you. She has that beautiful San Francisco background behind her. And so she'll be in the chat answering any of your questions live. Feel free to ask questions as I'm going through things as well. A lot of times other people are thinking about them too. And even if I don't see the chat right away, Allie can interrupt me and ask a question. So let's go ahead and get started. So I actually made a new account just for this webinar to show you what it looks like when a teacher first joins Vidcode. So when you first sign up, this looks totally different than it did before. Some of the things that we changed are, the biggest thing is that now you can have multiple courses assigned. You used to really only have the option of either creative coding or like hour of code workshop activities. Now we have all sorts of different courses and we're releasing more in the next few months. When you first make that account or when you sign into your existing account, you're probably just going to have JavaScript 101 assigned. You can change that, you can unassign it, you can assign different courses, and I'm going to walk through all of that with you. You're going to have a coding section created for you already when you first sign up. And you're also going to have these great videos down here that are going to walk you through getting set up, talking more about creative coding, show you some examples of an online Vidcode class. They're great. They used to just live on our YouTube channel, so I'm really excited that they're in a place that's more accessible to you all. The other thing that's new, like I said, is this course library. So from here, you're going to be able to preview and assign all of the different courses. For those of you who were teaching with Vidcode last year, the unit that you were using, that first unit, is the same as JavaScript 101. You haven't lost anything. In fact, there's more material available. We have this Spanish version of the course, as well as a cross-disciplinary course that takes our existing units and tutorials that you're familiar with and gives assets and prompts that make more sense in like a cross-disciplinary setting. So a lot of times classes will use these cross-disciplinary courses instead of like a PowerPoint or something like that. We also have cross-disciplinary coding 201 and 301. That gets more into like simulations and mathematical formulas. This is more just the basics and using code, like I said, to like replace something like a PowerPoint presentation. To assign any of these, if you're looking for more information, like even outside of this presentation, you can always meet with us, and I'm going to share a link for that. But you can also go into this details tab. This is going to have all of the different standards, any prerequisites that that course has, as well as like a more detailed description and the topics that get covered in that course. So we have these for all the courses, and they're there for you to kind of look through on your own time. We also have additional courses broken up into the middle school level courses. Some of the new ones are digital citizenship that we're really excited about. It's like sort of a mini course, but it's really fun. We have game development, which has also been in the works for a long time. We have a Spanish version of our course. And we have courses specifically for the high school level, these Computer Science 101 to 601 courses. So now that I've given sort of a tour, let me step back and actually go into the first day of class here. So it's my first day. I've signed up. You have a couple options here. One, you can make a new section. So let's say, period 5 computer science. You're going to open this. There's going to be a lot of options here. Don't feel overwhelmed. If anything, I would just leave the JavaScript 101 course. Or if you're using this for more of a workshop, use the Hour of Code courses, because that's sort of this like grab bag that kids can just like grab whichever project they're most interested in. So I would say don't be overwhelmed with the options here. For just a regular class, your first day of class, use JavaScript 101. For a workshop, use Hour of Code, and like don't worry about it beyond that. When I go to my dashboard, I'm going to have two options to add students. The first is this code that they can use. The other is this URL. I know a lot of you are coming back virtually. For me, in a virtual setting, it's a lot easier to use the URL versus like maybe if you're in class, you can just write the code on like a not a chalkboard, a whiteboard. But for me, it can be easier to share the URL in wherever you're sharing things, Google Docs, Google Classroom, anything like that. On the student side, let me show you what that looks like. So this is the student experience. My teacher just gave me this class code, this URL. It's the first day. I have the option to sign up with my Google account or my Office 365, depending on what your school has. If I don't have either, I can sign up with an email. If your students don't have any of these, if they don't have a Google account, if they don't have a Microsoft Office account, if they don't have an email, that's fine. We never email your students. You'll get emails from us, you'll get updates when we have new things available, but we never, ever, ever email the students on our platform. So they can always just make up an email address. That being said, if they do that, they can't then reset their password. So they should just double check that they've written a password that they're familiar with. So let's say I'll do like back to school webinar student, like in this case, like same, like obviously not a real email. I'll be Leandra. Any password here. And then yeah, they can just click the show password button to double check that it's a password that they're familiar with. When I press submit here, I'm only going to see, so this is your student view right now. I'm going to see whatever courses my teacher assigned to this section. Oh, cool. What are people asking? Oh, yes, I can pull up the library tab next. Sorry that I didn't do that initially. So here you see there's JavaScript 101. If I came in as a teacher and also assigned Hour of Code to this section, also assigned JavaScript 201, 301, my students would see all of that. And then it would sort of be up to me to point them where to go. What a lot of teachers are planning to do from the conversations I've had are to assign the courses as students go through them. So in the beginning of the year, just assign JavaScript 101 and assign the additional courses as they progress to those. I'm not going to spend too much time on this part because I think a lot of you have already seen it. But from here, I can see the different activities available. I can see which ones are tutorials, which are going to be a bit more hand-holdy, introduce new concepts. I can see which ones are challenges. I can see my quizzes here, my final projects. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and go into Start Coding. The code editor, for the most part, looks the same as it always has. I can still drag in different elements here. I can still go through. I'm going to see my vocabulary in bold. I'm going to see my instructions in this like purple bold color. One feature that we're adding that I'm really excited about is text to speech. So your students are going to be able to press a button and have this read aloud to them. That's still in the works on our end. It'll be out soon. In the meantime, we've been making YouTube videos. We call them code throughs that sort of serve that purpose, that have a bit of a lecture and one of the Vidcode team going through the tutorial talking about the vocab. So I will send everyone that link after this webinar is over. But those have been really good for students that are in a remote setting and just learn in different ways, would rather see a video than read instructions. And we want to just make both available. As I go through, as always, I'm going to have these different blocks here. If I want to know more about one of the functions, I can always jump to the reference. So to get here, I just hovered over this word, this function, and clicked full reference, and it brought me right to that place in the reference tab. This is going to be more relevant for your students once they get through a couple tutorials. The reference is the same in all the projects. I've actually had teachers ask me this last year. Everything students learn, they can use in all of the different projects. So everything that I'm doing right now, dragon kaleidoscope, dragon exposure. So these different functions, these different things, like bringing in a graphic, for example, I can use these in all of the different tutorials and activities that I go through throughout all of Vidcode, if that makes sense. So the things that I'm learning in JavaScript 101, I can use in JavaScript 201, I can use in game development. There's nothing that's specific to the individual activity that I'm in. And that was something that the teachers had questions about last year. There's two options for me when I'm finished with my project. I can either save it, so that way I can just go back to it later on when I come to the next class period or when I'm like going through it for homework. I can also submit my project. One sort of new feature that we have here, if you do want to, I say sort of new because I think we released it back in March. But if you do want to give your students feedback, they can go in and edit their work and make another version of it. So let's say you wanted more properties. So I'm going to go ahead and move the X position of my alien. And then move the Y position. Maybe I'll make it a little bit transparent. Cool, that looks good. By default, when I submit my edited project, it's going to have the same title and description. And there we go. I was able to, as a student, kind of respond to feedback that my teacher gave me. On the student end, it just feels like I edited this project, but you as the teacher actually have a version history of every single submission, every single time that the student edited this work. So now if I go back to my dashboard, I can see here, I have this little chart that shows my progress. I can also go down to my sketches and see all of my different work here. The other thing that's new is that there is a link directly to the coding sandbox. We used to have the coding sandbox available, but it was kind of hidden and hard for people to find. The coding sandbox is just an open sandbox where all of the different blocks that students are ever going to learn, that you're ever going to have access to, are here. So I wouldn't start here just because it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's like, what is all this stuff? But once you've maybe done half of JavaScript 101 or you've done a couple courses and a student has an idea for like a game or a puzzle that they really want to work on and make, they want to make a digital card and they don't want to do it in a course, the sandbox is the place to do that. Also, if you as a teacher have an idea for a lesson, feel free to just throw them in the sandbox and give them a prompt and have them solve it. Cool. I'm going to hop back to the teacher side, but does anyone have any questions about the student side of the experience? Okay, awesome. I can always reopen it. So on the student side, or on the teacher side, sorry, I can see that that student I just added, I'm actually going to go back to this other section because I had added a student here previously, Stephanie, just to show you what it looks like as someone's going through the course. So from here, I can go directly into Stephanie's profile. If I had multiple students, I'd be able to switch them really easily with this progress bar up here. I can see all their different work, as well as Stephanie's quiz results. I can also just see this on the class level. So from here, I can go into my assigned courses. I can see both all of my students' progress as well as my progress through the course. I can also see the certificates that my students have earned. This can be a really great way to keep them motivated. Maybe like print and display the certificates or send them home. I can also see all of the sketches that my students have done in this section. And one thing that we added based on feedback from teachers in a remote learning setting is this ability to filter them by date submitted instead of by unit level. So if you have a bunch of students and you just want to see like what they've submitted most recently, this is a really easy way to do that. I can also see all of their quiz results. If I want, I can get more detail on this. Open the quiz so I can see exactly what they were seeing when they were answering these questions. You also have access to the same showcase that you did in the previous version of our site. So if you want to add a project to it, you can just go over here into Sketches, go ahead and press Add to Showcase. And then you're going to have this really great public showcase of projects from your section, from the work that your students have done. Their names are not on here, so you don't have to worry about privacy if you're sharing it outside of your classroom with parents or with administrators or with maybe teachers from other schools. Someone asked about the library. So just to show you that. So libraries have access to the Hour of Code activities, all the Spanish activities, as well as special coding club courses. So Coding Club 1 through 4, it's our most popular tutorials. We put in the Coding Club ones, the ones that are the most fun. I don't think actually Coding Club even has quizzes. Oh, they do. Okay, cool. But yeah, these are available to you from your account to preview, to check out. If you are one of our teachers teaching with Vidcode this year, your license, if you do have a license with us, does unlock everything, not just your tab. So let's say you're in a middle school this year, but you're also running a coding club. You have access to this library tab if you do want to make a special section for like a coding club or something like that. They're more to like be organized for you to easily figure out what class is most relevant to you. One other thing that's new here is that we've taken our lesson plans and put them into their own section. So some of what's in here are resources to help you get started. We used to have these available, but only if we sent them to you directly and it was up to you to organize them. It's no longer up to you to organize them. Everything's here. In the next couple days, we're going to be adding, in addition to what's here, information on grading with Vidcode and information on running virtual courses, virtual classes. So look for those. That'll be in the next few days. But for now, there's this onboarding bundle that you're able to use as kind of a reference. It's pretty long, so I wouldn't maybe just like read through it, but I would skim through it, check what titles are here, just so you know that if you do have questions later on, where to go. There's vocabulary here. Oh, thank you. Someone just said they like the new interface. There's information on debugging and support in the virtual class that we're making soon, or the information on virtual teaching that we're making soon. We're going to have a section specifically on virtual debugging. We also have links to our debugging guide, as well as our sample rubric. A lot of times, teachers will print these out and just leave them on tables so that teachers have, or students have them available. There's also this letter that our curriculum lead wrote, Dr. M. So if you're an experienced Vidcode teacher, you don't have to open the letter. You can if you want. But it is a letter that she wrote for one of the professional developments we did. And we loved it so much that we included it in this onboarding bundle. As far as everything else, they're everything you would expect from a lesson plan, all of the standards that each one is aligned to. There's going to be background for each of the different concepts. There's going to be sample solutions for each one, so you as a teacher don't have to complete every single tutorial in order to see what students are going to be making. You can just open lesson plan and check. We're also going to be linking slides that are relevant to these different topics, if those are helpful to you, as well as the relevant code throughs that we've already created. We're going to be linking to those from the lesson plans as well. So just things to look for. There's also sharing and reflection prompts. In a virtual class, it can be hard to have students share in the same way as an in-person class. But a lot of times it can be helpful if the teacher kind of takes on that role. So has students submit the links to their projects, opens it up in front of sort of the whole class in whatever Zoom or Google Meet or however you're meeting. And you actually go through these sharing prompts. So you use the vocabulary and talk about the variable names that students used, or talk about their code organization, and like celebrate it and say really great things, and maybe give like helpful tips. And so there have been some questions in the chat. Let me open that up. Sarani, yes, it's being recorded. I'm going to send everyone a link right after. Okay, awesome. I don't see any other questions, but please send them in, and everyone who's asking for specific links, Allie will respond to you as we go through. The other thing that's new, it's kind of small, but we now, I don't have any sketches on this account, but we've broken up the published sketches and the in-progress sketches. It used to be that your in-progress work was all the way on the bottom, which was a bit annoying. Now there's just a separate tab, which is a lot better. The other thing that's new here, oh, in case you're wondering, this is one of the example projects from the game development course, which I really like. It teaches the basics of like just interaction, text manipulation, and makes it really easy for students to sort of have ideas and build their own games. But one thing that's new is this remix button. So students can actually remix each other's work. It'll just open it in the sandbox, and I'm able to play around. This is kind of a hard one. I maybe should have chosen a simpler one. But I'm able to play around. Here I can choose different items that are falling. I'll just make it hearts. There we go. And so I'm able to use this, like if you want to send them debugging exercises, if students are having trouble with their own project, you can like remix it and help them debug that way. They can also remix each other's work as an assignment. So one really great project that I saw done in the spring students used the sandbox to make these different aliens. This is gonna use my webcam, you're all gonna see me. So students used the sandbox to make these different aliens, and then students actually remixed each other's work, gave credit in the comments, like directly in the code here, and changed them, and made new aliens or new monsters or new creatures using that remix feature. So I thought that was very cool. So if I was going to do that right now, I would first make this just a color because I don't want to see myself. There we go. And then I could maybe like play around, change some of the colors here. I think that'll change a leg. Sloth Girl gave this really good variable name, so it's really easy for me to mess around. I know this is the head here. And then when I went to go edit this, I could say remixed V2 by Leandra. And then it's sort of this moment of like a digital citizenship, like good coder habit lesson, because I'm like taking someone else's code, I'm changing it, I'm giving them credit. A lot of times after we did this activity, I saw students actually do this in other projects besides like this particular one. They'll use their name and they'll say, if you remix this, give me credit, or please remix it. There's actually a great example of that in the library right now. So this on the top, this make your own avatar. Somebody made this and submitted it to the gallery. Your students' projects, by the way, will never just show up in the gallery. We respect your privacy. These are students over 13 that have explicitly submitted them to us. But in this one, we have anyone is free to use this code. Just copy the avatar function into your code and give credit. So it's this great way that, honestly, just in the past year since we added this remix function, we've seen kids come in and start to use Vidcode in this way. All right, awesome. So does anyone have any questions? I want to get to everyone who's here, but I think I'm going to stop recording if there aren't any questions sort of relevant to the new site or the first day of school.